This video contains spoilers for Stronghold 2's military campaign and will follow the narrative of the good path option in the story. Welcome, lords and ladies alike, to a brand new miniseries here at Firefly Studios, where we delve deep into the lore of Stronghold 2, a story full of treachery and turmoil, hellish battles and immense sieges. A completely separate account of fictional medieval history compared to Stronghold 1. The story of Stronghold 2 is that of a great civil war which encapsulated the entire breadth of England, touching the lives, lands and armories of every peasant and prince that called it home. Our first steps will be to look at the characters which populated the events of Stronghold 2, starting with the heroic figures which repelled a violent rebellion. But before we begin with the story of Sir William, a word about Roman's Age of Caesar. Players must rebuild the empire as they gather resources, re-establish trade routes, and protect shared city-states from barbarian invasion. Head over to playromans.com to play for free. Now, back to Sir William. Sir William is said to be born of a cherished bloodline located in Staffordshire within the middle of England, an instrumental part of the country which bridged east to west and north to south. His childhood was privileged, unplagued by the cruelties and uncertainty that was common in medieval life. Groomed for leadership from an early age, trained in noble manners and feudal tradition, he learned basic literacy and was judged on his speech and decorum. At the age of 7, he set out on his first steps towards the honourable life of knighthood. He became a page of a local lord, a servant sent to a nearby great house to run messages, clean clothing and weaponry, and of course, learn the basics of combat. As William's experience grew, he examined strong suits of armour as he polished them, analysed the hunting of game as he gathered food, and gained confidence on horseback. This was fertile ground for the growth of an exceptional knight and true gentleman of his age. But his education was not confined to the safety of the county's woodlands and warm courtly halls. During several skirmishes, he watched from afar as men butchered their enemies, keeping vigil over the battle camps and tending the armories that they contained. At first, he felt sick at the sight of blood, but soon grew accepting of its necessity when your home was endangered. Upon the age of 14, William became a squire, shield-bearer to his lord. He followed the royal army to squash local revolts and dismantle bandit camps, learning to deal with the gruesome realities of battle and brutality as they appeared in front of him. It was here he honed many of the tactics, strategies and instincts which would carry him through his later life. In equal measure, he gained experience from the barbarity of the battlefield, as from jesting around the campfire. But not all aspects of this life sat well with him. Having been charged with guarding dozens of distressed prisoners and replacing countless killed horses, he vowed only to deal death if absolutely necessary. His subjects would not view him as a callous murderer, but as a protector of the realm. During his first years as a knight, he found himself craving the fame and honour that the position gave him. He was first into battle and last to leave, tending to the sick and wounded, dedicated to fulfilling his chivalric duties. Day by day, his position within the royal courts improved, and he soon revelled in the company of the king. Despite his vainglorious motivation, nonetheless, he was a protector of the weak and the bane of the corrupt.
Bring him down! idiot!
The Civil War of the 11th century would challenge William's entire being, not only on the battlefield, but within his own bloodline. An opportunistic plot by rebel invaders sent the country into chaos, orchestrated by William's very own brother, Pascal Devereux. Dealing his first blow, Pascal secretly poisoned the king. This filled the country with uncertainty and fear of another period of stately campaign and false claims. And whilst the king lay sick and weak on what some dreaded would be his deathbed, Pascal launched the second part of his plan. The devastating second swing to an already reeling country. The last of the Viking lords, Olaf, was invited via a large sack of gold to attack the north. William responded, rallying his troops and assembling the royal army. But this only played into a devastating final ploy from Pascal, where the full extent of his treachery was revealed. William was persuaded to sign off the army to Pascal in case he fell in battle, and left the royal army leaderless. Once William was deep in the north of the country and entangled with Olaf, Pascal finalised his country's descent into calamity. He disbanded the army, leading the king to flee into the wilderness. England was now in disarray, lawless and anarchic. Pascal basked in his betrayal, with fellow barons Lord Berkeley and Edwin Blackfriar joining him. William, after years of preserving the peace and beauty of England, saw all his hardship undone by his own brother. The countless lives he swore to protect, endangered by his own bloodline. Medieval courts were not the most forgiving, and certainly not forgetful. Once your house's name had descended into the circles of deceit and trickery, those who once called you friend could turn cold and distant. Through his brother's deeds, William's loyalty was called into question, especially considering that in his desperation to mend his homeland, to fix the malicious work Pascal had done, he misstepped in his eagerness. Sir William was already questioned for his decision to sign away the royal army. But when he then laid siege to Lady Seren, many of his peers thought William to be among the defectors. But, in truth, he had been hoodwinked by the false narrative that she was a rebel who had wrongly held Edwin Blackfriar captive. And so, his path in the Civil War was clear. Not only must he fulfill his knightly and moral duty of protecting his land, crown and king, he must also clear his name. But his obsession in doing so came to cloud his vision and endanger those around him. He was so desperate to repair his trust with the king that he would do so even through a glorious death, and he paid no heed to the men who fell beside him in that quest. Eventually, after months of civil war, the number of battles, skirmishes and sieges began to dwindle as the rebels were crushed time and time again by the likes of Matthew Steele, Lady Seren and of course Sir William. As the war entered its final stages, Sir William confronted his brother Pascal. From across a river he shouted as Pascal listened to the words of his only brother from atop his battlements, cursing him for dragging their family's name through the mud, for breaking both the trust of the king and their own brotherly bond.
Pascal, you have tainted our family name forever!
Come now, brother! Do not be angry! Soon our family name will be synonymous with leadership. Rule this nation with me! Side by side we could accomplish so much!
It was here that William saw a sick reflection of himself within his brother. Both were in search of power and influence within the royal court, but both had very different ways of achieving that goal. Pascal was unmoved, and William resigned himself to their tragic circumstance. A final conflict filled the valleys of England with blood and the echoes of tortured screams. Eventually, the red mist cleared, and Pascal was dead, a And with his treacherous allies, Lord Berkeley and Edwin Blackfriar imprisoned, England was calm once more, and the Civil War came to a close. Sir William returned to the king, one of the many heroes of the war, but he was marked. His brother was now dead, and his bloodline forever tainted. He continued servitude for many years to come, but now found himself increasingly suspicious and cautious of those around him at the courtly sessions and ornate dinner tables. Of all the things he learned during this conflict, not least was the lesson that there are many paths to glory, but some are less chivalrous than others. And so, that brings to an end the first chapter of our Lore of Stronghold 2 series. Going forward, we shall be covering our other two major heroes in the story, Matthew Steele and Lady Seren. Until then, you can hit the subscribe button with notifications turned on to make sure you don't miss the following chapters or any other Stronghold videos in the coming weeks. And finally, if you enjoyed this video and would like us to continue our lore features, please hit the like button below.